Today's lesson covers some core music theory concepts and songwriting tools with diatonic triads across various styles. So let's get started by familiarizing ourselves with the idea of key. A key is basically a group of notes centered around a home note, which we call the tonic. So if we're in the key of C major, the notes are C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Each of these notes gets assigned a number from 1 to 7. These are called scale degrees. So C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, and so on. This numbering system is important because it lets us understand patterns that work in any key, not just C major. From these notes, we can build chords. The simplest type of chord is called a triad, which just means 3 notes stacked together in thirds. I've covered this in other videos. If we build triads using only notes from the key, we get what are called diatonic triads. In C major, the chords are C, the 1 chord, D minor, the 2 chord, E minor, the 3 chord, F major, the 4 chord, G major, the 5 chord, A minor, the 6 chord, B diminished, the 7 chord. And there's a consistent pattern here. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. So instead of thinking of these chords as random shapes, you can think of them as a system, a family of chords that works together. These Roman numerals tell us 2 things. First, the Roman numeral tells us the position of the chord in the scale. Secondly, the capitalization tells us the chord quality. Uppercase numerals mean the chord is major, while lowercase numerals means the chord is minor, and the small circle means the chord is diminished. So instead of memorizing chord names, we can understand everything as a system based on scale degrees and chord qualities. The 5 chord is built on the 5th scale degree and has a dominant function, meaning it resolves to the tonic. By default, it is a major triad, but it can also appear as V7. The term dominant refers to the function, not the chord quality. So the chord may appear either as a major triad or as a 7th chord in chord progressions. Another way of thinking about this is a 7 chord has a major chord inside of it already. Let me play a quick example. C, A minor, F, G. Even though the chords change, it still sounds unified because everything is coming from the same key. Here's a second example in the same key. D minor, G, C, A minor. Even though we start on a different chord, it feels connected because everything belongs to that same diatonic system. In some styles, like rock, instead of using the diminished 7 chord, we use a flat 7 major chord. This chord comes from the Mixolydian mode and removes the leading tone, creating a more open sound. In the key of C, C, B flat, F, C. Normally, the 7th diatonic triad in the key of C major would be a diminished 7. Now let's look at a progression that shows us how chords function. This particular one is called the 2-5-1 or 2-5-1. In C major, that would be D minor, G, C. Each chord has a role. The D minor sets things up. The G creates tension, and the C resolves that tension. This kind of movement away from the tonic and then back is what gives music direction. You hear this progression all over jazz, but also in pop and R&B. Now, instead of using just one scale, I can change modes with each chord. Over the D minor, I'm using Dorian. Over the G, I'm using Mixolydian. Over the C, I'm using Ionian. Each mode lines up with the chord and resolves naturally. Dorian fits the 2 chord because it contains the chord tones, plus a natural 6. Mixolydian fits the 5 chord because of the flat 7, and Ionian resolves to the tonic. Let's do a second example in a different key. In G major, A minor, D, G. A 2-5-1 progression consists of a minor chord, a major chord built on the 5th scale degree with a dominant function, and a major chord. When extended into seventh chords, it becomes minor 7, dominant 7, and major 7. So that gives us A minor 7, D7, G major 7. Now I'll add a simple lead line over top of those chords. Over A minor 7, A, C, E. Over D7, F sharp, E, D. Over G major 7, B, G. So you can hear how the melody follows the harmony and resolves to the tonic. Now let's shift to the blues. The 12-bar blues uses a similar idea, movement between chords, but with a different sound. In A, the chords are the 1 chord, A7, the 4 chord, D7, and the 5 chord, E7. And the structure goes like this. A7 for 4 bars. D7 for 2 bars. Then back to A7 for 2 bars. Then E7, D7, A7, E7. What's different here is that all the chords are dominant 7th chords. That gives the blues its characteristic tension. It never fully resolves in a classical sense. This sound is foundational for blues, rock, and early jazz. Now, instead of thinking about a full major or minor scale, I'm using a minor pentatonic scale, which gives me a smaller, more focused set of notes. A, C, D, E, G. Then I occasionally add in extra notes, like the E flat, which is often called a blue note. These notes work over all 3 chords, but I shift emphasis depending on the chord underneath. So even though I'm using one primary scale, the phrasing changes to reflect the harmony. Here's an example. Bar 1, A, C, D, C. Bar 2, A, E, D, C. Bar 3, A, C, D, E flat. Bar 4, E, D, C, A. Bar 5, D, F, G, F. Bar 6, D, A, G, F. Bar 7, E, D, C, A. Bar 8, A, C, D, E. Bar 9, E, G, A, G. Bar 10, D, F, G, F. Bar 11, E, D, C, A. Bar 12, E, G, B flat, A. So now the melody is actually following the chord movement instead of just staying static. Here's another example that shows how harmony creates strong mood. In A minor, G, F, E. 1, 7, 6, 5. This is often called a descending minor pattern or an Andalusian cadence. Now here's an important detail. In the natural minor scale, the 5 chord would normally be E minor, but here we use an E major instead. We raise the 7th note, G, to a G sharp, which creates the harmonic minor scale, A, B, C, D, E, F, G sharp. This means what would have been an E minor triad, E, G, B, has now changed to E, G sharp, making it a major chord by raising the 3rd. So we're actually modifying the diatonic system to increase tension and resolution. Now, if I want to solo over this progression, I need a scale that matches that E major chord. If I use an A natural minor, it wouldn't quite fit because there's no G sharp. You can use an A harmonic minor over the progression, but you'll need to be careful over the G chord because G sharp will clash with G natural. Most players either avoid that note over G or switch briefly to natural minor and then return to harmonic minor over the E chord. Let me show you a simple phrase. 1, A, B, C, D. 7, B, C, D, E. 6, F, D, A, C. 5, D, E, F, G sharp. That G sharp resolving up to A is what gives it that dramatic sound. You can also mix this with A minor pentatonic for a more blues-based feel, depending on the style of music. Next, let's talk about relative minor. Every major key has a related minor key built from the 6th degree of the scale. So in C major, the 6th note is A, which gives us A minor. Now this is where something important happens. When we move to a minor key, the diatonic triads change order, and their labels change, because now the tonic is different. In C major, C is the 1 chord, D minor is the 2 chord, E minor is the 3 chord, F is the 4 chord, G is the 5 chord, A minor is the 6 chord, and B is the 7 chord. In A minor, the relative minor system, A minor becomes the 1 chord, B diminished becomes the 2 chord, C becomes the 3 chord, D minor becomes the 4 chord, E minor or E becomes the 5 chord, F becomes the 6 chord, and G becomes the 7 chord. Notice that the Roman numerals change because the tonic has shifted. So now the same chords are being interpreted relative to the new tonal center. So the same pool of chords exists, but their functions and order changes because A minor is now the tonic instead of C. In minor keys, the 5 chord is often changed from minor to major by raising the 7th scale degree, as I showed you before. This creates a leading tone that strongly resolves back to the tonic. The lowercase v comes from the natural minor scale, while the uppercase v comes from the harmonic minor scale. So please take note that the 1 is lowercase because it's minor. The 2 is lowercase. The D is lowercase. The 3 in A minor is uppercase. So that's different, and that's telling you something different. Let's take a look at a chord progression. C, G, A minor, F. That's the 1, the 5, the 6, and the 4. Now let's reorganize this so it's A minor. A minor becomes the 1, E minor becomes the 5, F becomes the 6, D minor becomes the 4, if we choose to make it natural minor. Or A minor becomes the 1, E major becomes the 5, F becomes the 6, and D minor becomes the 4 in the case of harmonic minor. This is not just a relabeling. The progression is reorganized so that A minor functions as the tonic. So instead of changing the chords themselves, we are reinterpreting them around a new tonal center. And that's what creates a darker tonal quality. So now here's a different concept, parallel minor. Instead of changing the tonal center, I keep the same tonic, but change the notes. So C major becomes C minor. So C is the 1 chord, F is the 4 chord, G is the 5 chord. And then we change it into C minor. C minor becomes the 1 chord, F minor becomes the 4 chord, and G minor or G major becomes the 5 chord. Let's apply it to a progression. C, F, G, C. 1, 4, 5, 1. This would become C minor, F minor, G minor, C minor. 1, 4, 5, 1. Relative minor changes the tonal center. Parallel minor keeps the same tonic but changes the notes and chord qualities. Now let's talk about pivot chords. A pivot chord belongs to 2 keys and helps you transition smoothly. Example, A minor, F, C, G. Here we pivot into the new key using a bridge chord that exists in both keys. In this case, we're moving into G major. So our next chord is E minor, D, C, then G as the 1 chord. Or we could think of it as the 5 chord of the key of C, pivoting back. Now what happens if we add notes of the related modes over these chord progressions? A, Aeolian, A, C, E, G. F, Lydian, F, A, C, B. C, Ionian, C, E, G, B. G, Mixolydian. G, B, D, F. E, Aeolian. E, G, B, D. D, Mixolydian. D, F sharp, A, C. C, Lydian. C, E, G, F sharp. G, Ionian. G, B, D, F sharp, or Mixolydian. G, B, D, F. Here at E Aeolian, up until this point, the selected notes remain within the original key of C major. But as we shift to D Mixolydian, F sharp starts to come in and really change the vibe, because F sharp introduces a note outside of the key of C major, and that changes the tonal color. So even if the progressions stay the same, changing the mode over a chord changes how we hear it. Let's look at some other examples of pivot chords. In the key of C major, F major, G major, C. Here this will act as the pivot chord into the key of F major, C7, F major, D minor, B major, C. This could also be interpreted as the 1 chord in the key of C major. The C acts as a pivot chord, functioning as 1 in C major and 5 in F major. The addition of the C7 strengthens the resolution of F, establishing the new key. Later, C can either resolve to F or be interpreted as a return to C major. Another example, key of C major, C major, G major, F major, D minor. From here, this chord pivots into the key of A minor, G, E, D minor. This can also be interpreted as the 2 chord in the key of C major, if returning. D minor here acts as a pivot chord, functioning as the 2 chord in C major and the 4 chord in A minor. This allows a smooth transition into A minor, where A becomes the new tonic. I hope this has been helpful for you, and I'll see you next time.